In July of 2023, a bombshell hearing on UAPs was held. It was a bombshell hearing mainly because a former intelligence official claimed to have knowledge of multi-decade illegally secretive UAP programs. He claimed that the purpose of the programs is to recover and reverse engineer crashed craft of non-human origin, and the programs are run by the U.S. government in collaboration with private aerospace companies. Although these claims may sound far-fetched to many, there have been several other credible witnesses who have testified to Congress, the Senate, and several government agencies and made similar allegations. We are going to talk about one of those people in today's video. Please keep in mind that most of the public whistleblower testimonies are secondhand, meaning that the whistleblowers are repeating what they heard from other people within the government, or who they think are in the government. However, the whistleblower I'm going to cover in this video saw something firsthand, which makes his testimony significant. I am going to cover the testimony of Michael Herrera. Please note I won't go over all of it. Michael Herrera is a former U.S. Marine. He joined the Marines fresh out of high school and served for 4 years. While serving in the Marines in 2009, Herrera was sent on a Navy humanitarian mission. He was a 20-year-old rifleman at the time. He was deployed to the Philippines as a member of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. He was there to help distribute aid in the wake of a typhoon. Herrera was redirected to Indonesia when a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck Sumatra on September 30, 2009. Herrera and the others were there to guide helicopter aid drops around Pagon City. He and 5 Marines were dropped off at a clearing in the northeastern part of the city by CH-53 chopper and around October 8th. They then hiked 900 feet up a ridge to take their positions for the incoming supply drop. Once they got to the high point, Herrera started taking video with his camera. When Michael turned to the north, he saw an octagonal craft on the ground. The craft was rotating and seemingly transitioning between colors. It was transitioning between a light matte gray and a dark matte black. Michael and his colleagues decided to investigate. Michael was able to take pictures and videos of the craft before him and his colleagues walked down to it. When they got down from the hill, they were approximately 150 meters away from the craft. They were able to clearly observe the craft. They were able to determine the craft was 300 feet. The top of the craft had a pyramid structure. The craft made an audible hum, sort of like a guitar amp. It was floating at least 10 feet off the ground. Even though the craft acted really erratically and seemed to defy the laws of physics, it looked human-made. It appeared to be in use by clandestine U.S. forces. Herrera and his colleagues were then intercepted by a team of soldiers. The soldiers had American dialects and American gear. The men were wearing all-black camouflage and bulletproof vests. They were wearing nothing that signified who they were. The men started threatening them. The men even threatened to kill Michael and his colleagues. The men forced them to give up their weapons. Herrera and his colleagues then gave their military IDs to the men. The men took pictures of the IDs of what looks like present-day smartphones. In the background of the scene, there were 4 F-350 trucks. The trucks were armored and had weapon cases that Michael recognized. They also had these green crates. Herrera initially suspected that the crates were being used to smuggle narcotics or drugs, but he now believes that they were for smuggling people due to what another alleged whistleblower said. However, it is important to note that the whistleblower who said that is anonymous and no credible media network has verified his credentials or even existence. The cargo on the trucks was then loaded onto a platform beneath the craft. Once everything was loaded, the trucks drove off. The platform then rose off the ground itself. The platform and the craft then became one solid piece. The craft then rose above the tree line, and then shot off to the ocean extremely fast without disturbing the environment, and there was no sonic boom. They were then forcibly escorted back up the hill. Herrera and his colleagues were told that they couldn't look back and that they were not allowed to speak of what happened. After the incident, they were debriefed by a rear admiral that they didn't recognize. Herrera found it odd that such a high-ranking officer was present. None of them mentioned the octagonal craft and unmarked troops. Herrera and his fellow Marines were docked in Subic Bay in the Philippines. After an evening of trading with his calls, he found that his camera's card and battery was removed from his locker. His flight comrades' phones were also missing. In December 2009, he was back at Hansen in Okinawa, Japan. He was told to report to the office. Once he got to the office, he saw an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel in full uniform that had no name tag. The lieutenant told Michael that he couldn't talk about what he saw with anyone and that he would end up in prison or even dead if he did. Herrera was informed his own India. Herrera kept his experience a secret for almost 14 years. However, he did tell a story privately to ufologist Dr. Stephen Greer in 2017. It should be noted that Dr. Stephen Greer is a sketchy figure in the UFO community. He makes pretty wild claims. For example, he claims that huge part government, part corporate entity controls UFO matter by hiding technology from the public, and that has more power than any government in the world. I personally find that far-fetched, as well as several other claims he makes. I can't cover all his claims in one video. But in summary, I think he is kind of in his own world. Just watch a few interviews of him and you would probably see why. But I do think some of his witnesses could be seen as credible, like Herrera. Michael finally broke his silence when the government added a new clause to the National Defense Authorization Act. The clause allowed whistleblowers to report previously undisclosed material retrieval, material analysis, and reverse engineering programs to the Pentagon's air team without fear of prosecution for violating security oaths and non-disclosure agreements. Michael spoke about his experience at one of Greer's National Press Club events. Michael also testified to AIR, the Pentagon's UFO office, and a Senate committee. Michael said that his comrades who witnessed the event are too scared to come forward. Although this case is pretty credible, there are still some skeptical points that shouldn't be ignored. As with all paranormal matters, I am going to go over the skeptical points and tell you where I stand on this case. The first possible explanation for this is really simple. Herrera is just lying. Although this is less likely due to his service record and the fact that he testified to ARROW and the Senate committee, former team leader spoke out and claimed that Herrera's story was inconsistent and never happened. He also said that Michael was a weird guy. He said they didn't show up for his first deployment. He also claims Herrera was somewhere else at the time the alleged encounter took place, and that he has a photo to prove it. Michael claimed that it was not him in the photo. His former team leader also said that multiple parts of Michael's encounter story are inconsistent. He claimed that the part about Michael getting called for a special mission doesn't make sense because according to him, that doesn't happen with new Marines. He also said that the claim that Michael and his colleagues were armed with rifles didn't make sense because the military doesn't bring rifles on humanitarian mission. Being armed with rifles could send a threatening message you don't want on humanitarian mission. His team leader pointed out more inconsistencies, but will not get into them for time purposes. It is also important to note that just because lying to authorities is illegal doesn't mean people don't do it. A famous example would be when Bill Clinton was impeached by the House for lying under oath and obstruction of justice. Another explanation is that he saw actual classified U.S. government tech. Multiple governments have developed and are currently developing military technology that can do unusual things and could possibly be mistaken for a UFO. One example is hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles are missiles that can go at high speeds and are maneuverable. That's one of many advanced military technologies that are currently being developed. It is also important to remember that a lot of it is classified. It should also be noted that Michael's memory might be less reliable because the encounter happened over a decade ago. Now, where do I stand? I will break that down into two questions, which are, do I think the witness is being truthful, and do I think he saw what he thought he saw? The answer is yet for both. Let me explain why. I think he is telling the truth because of the fact that he told his story to authorities. Doesn't seem to be much motivation for him to risk going to jail by making up the story. He also doesn't seem to have a criminal history. It doesn't seem like he made much, if any, money off of this story. Not only that, but he already made multiple millions. The only plausible reason for him to make up this story, in my opinion, is to get attention, which his former team leader suggested. But I find it implausible that someone would risk going to jail just for attention, particularly someone like this. His former team leader could be misremembering, which he does indicate in an interview he did. Another reason why I believe his story to be genuine is that a document recently provided to Congress seems to support his claims. I believe that he saw reverse engineered. I believe they saw reverse engineered NHI tech because the craft didn't seem to have any visible means of propulsion, along with the other observed anomalous factors. I think I think Michael's memory is reliable because what he experienced is pretty memorable, while what his former team leader said is not that memorable. However, I would like to see an aviation expert do an analysis on the craft Michael allegedly saw. That is it for today's video. Please like, sub, and share to support my channel. Thanks for watching.